I wasn't planning to do any kind of a formal intro of you, Mark. I think everybody here knows you.
Oh,
You're
that's cool.
awesome and experimental and definitely game for whatever goes down. And yeah, I mean, we love your work.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much. That very cool. All right, I want to talk real before I get started, and I'm going to give myself this extra time to do this. I want to talk
yeah.
about the reference first because this is, whoops, wrong one. Ha! I got the wrong reference for today. Let's browse to the correct one. That's funny. That was from last time I did something. Hold on.
You guys, you
Today.
can
Here we
pin
go.
him if you want to see his, yeah, there we go.
That's the reference we're looking for. Let me skinny it up so you
Oh,
can see the
wait,
whole thing.
I need to,
Okay.
let me make you a co-host so that you can share your screen
You
better.
don't need to
Oh,
because this goes straight to this is right off of my software.
oh,
So
good. Okay.
yeah, so no big deal. You got it. I don't need to share anything. I just want to talk my way through it a little bit. Um, this is, I mean, there's some key elements in here, but it is mostly complex. Leaves everywhere, foliage on the ground. You know, the ground cover. You got up, right, down, left, right. What are you going to do with this, and what are you going to do with it in 30 minutes? You have to really figure out what are the key elements that you care the most about and where do you want to make sure they fit. And what I discovered after doing this a couple of times, I actually did this one a couple of times, I still haven't got it down to 30 minutes. We'll see what I do today.
Mhm.
But is these two trees right here are the anchors for everything. They anchor everything. The trees in the middle right here, that's a little bit weird because you got a tangent going on there and you have to decide, do I want both trees? Do I want just one tree? What does it matter? And if I were going to pick the one tree, I think I would not pick the vertical. I would pick the leaning one because it's got more interest to it. And it also leads the eye around. Then the other bit that's over is right down over here. There is that chunk of those huge sword ferns that we get here are down there in that corner. And then there's the path, but the path is kind of nondescript. Do we want a piece of bluish gravel right there, or what do we want? So these are all the decisions that I'm thinking of when I'm trying to put together a decent painting out of a reference that is this complex. But the first thing I really want to know, the first thing I really care about is why? Why do I want to paint this? And what I've seen about it that I absolutely dearly love, all the bright yellows and the warm ones. Those are so great. And then you put that against this variety of greens with a little bit of blue and violet in the trunks. That to me is the fascinating bit. So I will be focusing on key anchors to the composition and the colors because those are the things that I really care about. And the rest of it is texture. It's all texture. And what I love about painting with pastels is that we get to play with texture in the simplest ways. I have a couple of tricks, one of which I'll show you, which some of you probably seen me do, with an eraser in a holder. I love this thing. This is the square version. This is what you can get in Asia. The round versions are here. I don't know why they don't make round square ones here, but this is the one I had replaced in Asia. So here's a round one, but I'm out of eraser on this one. But those are typical. Alvin makes them. I think Statler makes one. So you can find them pretty much anywhere. Blick will have one. But yeah, it's a great tool, and I'll play with it as fast as you'll see how fast I can get interesting textures in what I'm doing. So the process in a nutshell, and I'm almost down to 10 minutes here that I've taken up already. But the process in a nutshell is dry underpainting. So instead of using alcohol, because I'm working on Hanamura paper here. This is their collection sketch, which I love. This is 140 GSM, so 65-pound paper. It's not that heavy, but it takes pastel really well, and it has an absolutely random texture, which is what I think is perfect for this sort of thing. So no late finish, no. Sometimes even with the sanded paper, sometimes you'll see there's like a line where they laid the sand down. You can see that a little bit. There's a bit of chatter that happens there. Nothing. This is absolutely random, and there's a really good use of that. The other thing about this paper is, and truth be told, they send paper to me to work on it because I really like it and I tell people about it. So the Hanamura paper, bang for buck is amazing. Amazing. You can get full 16 by 20 size, pads that you can do a full 16 by 20 on with a border. It's under $1.50 a sheet to get that. It's really impressive. So you get 30 sheets for like 45 bucks. Something like that. I highly recommend it. What's that?
What is the name of the paper?
The name of the paper is Handemühle. Let me just do something real quick here. You'll see it. And I'm saying that with the proper pronunciation of the umlaut, I believe. So there's the name of the company right there at the bottom of the screen.
Ah, thank you.
Hahnemu with an umlaut, HLE. And if you say Handemühle, people know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can get it at Blick. You can get it, I think Amazon, you can find it on Amazon elsewhere. Just wherever you can get paper. And if you haven't got paper, if you haven't got it, talk to your supplier, because this stuff is definitely bang for buck for pastels, for graphite, for charcoal. I mean, really, and it holds. I had paintings I had 16 by 20s. 10 paintings, mostly 16 by 20s. Only one of them was done on something other than this paper. Shipped them to Taiwan, halfway around the world, for an invitational show. They unboxed them, framed them, sent them to 3 cities on a traveling tour, and the ones that didn't sell, they boxed back up again and shipped them here, and they were fine.
Wow.
They were fine. So it really holds the pastel, much more than you think. So let me demonstrate how that looks and show you my process, and this is going to be like the fastest nutshell you could ever imagine on how this works for me. All right? Are we ready? I think we are. Okay. Pull the sleeves up. Okay, I'm going to start my clock. Right now we're about, what, 12 past the hour? Yeah, 12 past the hour. I'm going to see if I can get this done by 10:42 my time. Is that okay? All right, we are off. All right, first things first. Where's my composition? I want to make sure that I get these things right. This is a very dusty tortillon or a stump blender, and that really works very well for me. So that is one tree. I'm going to lean this one a little bit more. That is the other tree. See, I've already taken some license as to how big they are. This one, I'm going to make that about that big. I'm going to make this one, I'm going to push it over just a hair more and make it this wide. So those are my references for those. And I want this one to come down to here, and I want this one to come down to here. And I want my path to angle a little bit more than that, because that'll be more fun. We'll get that way. Here's all my sword ferns that I talked about. Let's use the one. See, now notice that these are angling slightly. I'm going to angle this one even more. And I'm going to put it here. That's good. And then I want this one here to kind of lead the eye back in. So I'm actually going to tilt it a little. The camera will tilt it somewhat. From the outside, you know how you get that little bit of a fisheye. But we're going to do that there. So that's that bit. And here's my slope. That's pretty good. Yep. And then that leaves me, let's bring that down a little further. There we go. We'll make it shorter today. I like that better because that gives me more gold. And there's a tree here and another tree here. That's looking pretty good. A few little bits here. That's it. All right. So the composition is in. That's it. And the next bit I'm going to do is with this is a nice warm gray. This is a Mount Vision. I love these guys. Mount Vision is also what I consider one of the dustier types as opposed to creamier types. The nice thing about a Mount Vision is that it will leave plenty of dust behind that you can push into the paper, and I'm going to do that in a minute. But let's do this first. So here's my one tree. Here's my other tree, and a little bit thinner. Cool. Let's make sure we get that a little more straight. That'll work. Let's do this here. Make sure my trees always get thicker as I paint them, so I try to start them a little bit thin. They always grow a bit. Straighten that up just a bit more. I like that. It kind of anchors this edge pretty well. Give us a little darkness up here. A little bit of darkness up here. That's good. Straighten that out. Nice. All right. I'm going to use this same value just to knock in all of the major darks. There's a trunk that comes down this way. There's a fallen tree here. We may or may not use that. We'll see. But I'm just giving this a little bit of tone right now. so I know where that's going. Oh, another little trick that I learned. I actually have this on my backboard is very hard. It's a sheet of masonite, but I also have the I also have several sheets of the paper behind it, so I get a little bit. It's like it's on a pad instead of on just on the board. So I get a little bit of give there, and I found that that really helps. You know what? Let's just indicate where that fallen tree will go because I like the way that leads the eye. There's another tree that comes across here. We may or may not even show that at all. I'm going to leave this up here. I'm going to put a few little things in here. These are going to look a little different when we're done. This is a nice strong dark. Let's use it. Great. A little bit more here. Suggestion of it there. I like it. So far so good. We're going a little bit more dark into here. Yeah, take that up a little. All right, so my basic landscape is obvious. That's good. Set that one aside. Now what I want to do is give the background some real intense color because I'm putting this is my dry underpainting. So I'm going to go with it like a really strong yellow in a couple of places. This one's a bit creamier. It feels like a Sennelier to me. But it's probably a Jack Richardson that I've misplaced. I try to keep those together, but it's probably that, judging from the feel, actually, now that I think of it. Yeah. So here's where I know I'm going to have some yellow. And I want to put this down where I can find it again. A bit of that there. Cool. Let's make this nice and intense here. How are we doing? Yep. Plenty of it here. There's a nice bright going on there. Let's let that in. Okay, so I've got two colors down at this point. What else do we want? Now I'm gonna go with a more of a yellow ochre at this point. This is also a Jack Richardson. I like this one a lot. So we're gonna just kind of tone that up a little bit with a little bit of mid-tone. If you have questions, go ahead and blurt them out. I don't mind answering questions on the fly. About anything. Okay, let's go with, I want to put some bluish violet in here because I like how this works. Let's do this. Get that started. This is another Jack Richardson, which is a little bit less. I usually start with the dustier ones and then end with the creamier ones, but I like the color I've got here, so I don't mind if it stays because it's going to sit underneath everything else I paint later. That's cool. Literally and figuratively. Here's this one. Nice. And where are we? We're here. That's good. This is good. I'm going to ignore that vertical there. We can always add something later, but that's good. I like the way that ended up. Next bit I want to do is some green.
So one thing that seems different, Mark, is
Yeah.
is that you don't seem to be necessarily starting with like all dark values and then moving to middle and then lighter values.
True. Yes, that is true. I tend to paint the whole thing, and when I'm doing what I call this dry underpainting, I want to find a different green. When I'm doing this dry underpainting, that's better. There we go. Kind of a bluish gray green here. When I'm doing the dry underpainting, I'm actually setting myself up for other colors later. But what I want is the stuff that I know I want to get back to. In other words, if I end up painting over something, if I erase out from underneath it, what am I going to end up with? And these are the colors I want to have that I can come down to. But yeah, you're right. I don't. If I were to paint this directly, I would be doing exactly what I'm doing now. Actually, no different. I would just, these would actually be closer to final marks than they are at the moment. Right now, I'm doing a lot of setting up. Another comment?
I just said unconventional.
Unconventional. I do tend to be unconventional. I think You know, a lot of it is because I just experiment all the time, and I find different ways to do stuff, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then after a while, I realize, okay, I'm getting kind of precious with that. I don't want to do that anymore. Um, and try something else. Does it work? What can you get? And I call it the Brian Bailey philosophy. If you've not seen Brian Bailey's work, look him up. Brian Bailey is amazing. His textures are unbelievable. And he has what I call the Brian Bailey philosophy, which is whatever gets the look you want, do that. So there are no rules that cannot be adjusted or amended. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit. This is a Rembrandt. I've been getting back to Rembrandts more recently. I did a demo for Opus Art Supplies via Zoom in Canada, and they had only 3 brands that they were selling, and Rembrandt was one of them. And Rembrandt and this paper are fantastic together, and Rembrandt and velour are amazing together. I learned that. I've been working on velour more recently, trying that stuff, and it's been really expressive. But look how I'm now able to kind of press in a little further because it's harder. I'm able to actually get this to go a little bit deeper. And these marks will be a little bit more permanent this way. So I'm being really judicious about where they go, even though I'm being sort of slapdash about the marks I'm using. That's on purpose. But yeah, I fully believe in just trying stuff and seeing how it works for you. And if you get something that you hadn't gotten before, cool. Where can you use that? You know, how does that work? All right. So this is in very roughly, but it's got all of the basic colors that I want to deal with. Let me just add a little bit of, I'm going to add a sky blue up in the corner here because the camera, my landing zone isn't good. Where are we? There we go. The camera reads the edges of branches as blue, and it's actually sort of an affectation of the camera, but it works visually. So a lot of times I'll just throw that in just to have it around to play with. Okay, now that I've got this, this is what makes it a dry underpainting. Notice I'm trying to keep some of these verticals really clear. So I'm pressing them into the tooth now. And then I'm just going to press the rest of this in. And now that I've messed my hand up, I can't go for the yellow as soon as I wanted. But that's okay. Okay, now, here's a pinky finger, doesn't have much. So I'm basically filling much of the tooth. One of the things that I struggled with when I was doing colored pencil work was, I just hated the white of the paper. It's like, get rid of it, I don't want these speckly bits. Well, I've learned to kind of make use of those speckly bits since then. And the honeymoon of the paper, because it is such random texture, you can see the texture now, even on the screen. If you're looking at it on a larger screen, you can see the texture. But I like the fact that, again, it's totally random. I get to do what I want with it. Now, here's where I go to, where we're like 12 minutes into this. Now I'm erasing out either down to the paper in the case of these sky holes, or down to that base color that I put. See, so that base color shows up. So all the stuff that I put over top is now just complexity that I get to use. So I smeared some of these colors into each other, no problem. Watch me take them right back out. Get some light back into here. Get some texture, random moves. There's some beautiful highlights that happen down in here. I love it. Firm up that trunk a little bit because there we go. Look at it, right on this edge here. I can actually identify the position of that trunk better now just by erasing a little bit, just by making a little bit of value difference. But I get all this seeming complexity. I have not drawn any leaves. I have not drawn any branches. I've barely drawn the trunks. But right now, I'm making it look more and more complex as we go, and you can see the highlights are showing up. If we were doing this on, say, like a UArt Dark, or a Canson darker color, or any of those, we could actually be erasing out the shadows. So would you be erasing down to darker stuff from the lighter? In this case, I'm going from the stuff that I put on top now is being erased out, so I'm getting lighter as I go. So I'm erasing out the highlights as opposed to the shadows. Either one works. I will often use it like a UArt Dark or a Fabriano vice versa paper with some nice dark color to get a different look for this. That's a nice highlight right down here where this whole thing meets, something like that. Leaves the eye in there nicely.
Mark, do you use the other colors of the Honeymuller paper?
Honeymuller has several different kinds of paper. Yes, I do. They have what they call the Angre, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is their mold-made paper. This is pressed paper here, but the mold-made paper has multiple colors on it, and I like that a lot. It's a much lighter weight, so it acts a bit differently. Plus, it has that Angre. The reason they call it that is because there is a very specific pattern to the screen that they put on the mold. And that screen pattern is distinctive. You can use it to your advantage. It looks very much like canvas, actually, when you're done. I'm just putting in texture here for some of those highlights. I may not even paint those. I may just leave this texture as the last marks.
So now, what paper is this one?
This is the collection sketch.
Oh, the sketch. Okay.
Yeah, this is collection sketch. Now they call it collection sketch, and I keep saying, please, please, please say pastel somewhere. They used to call it Schizo Pastel. They used to call it Sketch Pastel, and they have rebranded it and taken it from 40. Was it before? It was it was 130 GSM, which was 60 pounds, to 140 GSM, which is 65 pounds. And I like the 65 pounds of the collection sketch better, but they don't call it pastel anything anymore. And I think it could stand to market it like that. So I talk it up a lot because this is pastel paper, folks. It works. It also works really well with graphite, though. Like I said, I've been illustrating a series of books with an author who's just terrific. He's doing a young adult book series, and
we are host to over 10,000 every year.
The illustrations are all graphite, and it's been fantastic using this paper for that. I've just been thrilled to death with it. It's so expressive and so easily worked. All right, so now I've got look at all this texture that just showed up out of nowhere, just from this thing.
The history of Idaho, get out some of the bad weather. A series report will embarrass reported from downtown Boise, Idaho News Sense.
So we've got basically 15 minutes left to do this. Let's go ahead and move this up. So what else do I need to do? Now I need to start defining shapes really clearly. Let's go ahead and redo the darks again. So this way I know exactly where they're going to be. Oh, this is nice. And I'm gonna be relatively rough with this because I like the rough look at this speed. But I want to make sure that these edges are good, because that's what gives us the proper depth. Oh, big old Doug fir, love it. And look how easy it is for me to get Douglas fir bark with this paper and with these pastels. We're back to that original dark that I used before. Same one. Use the top here. Nice. Now these are really parallel, and I think it will behoove me to make this one lean just a little bit less. Darken that up. Put this back in. Now you notice that when I put the marks down now, the marks are going over the textured stuff that I did earlier, which is perfect, because what that means now is that I'm getting even more complexity without actually drawing all the complexity. It's remarkable how much detail you can suggest. I did a whole workshop on suggesting detail, and it was great fun because you end up painting a lot less than you think to get this kind of complexity. I'm just suggesting branches here. Let's go ahead and put a little bit more of this bit in here that allows us to define that tree by painting the negative space. Got that trunk there. See if we still want to use that. Let's make sure this is good and dark over here because this is sort of our foreground anchor on the left-hand side. Again, marks that feel like ferns. I'm going to put a few of these branches over the front here, but let's just suggest where they might go. Put a little bit back in there. Here we go. Again, I'm doing this with that really dark, warm gray. No black yet. I may or may not use black. I'm not averse to it in any way. It really depends on how much strength of value you need there and where you want your lines to go. Let's just firm that trunk a little bit more. We'll join these right here. What else can we have? Let's have a couple more that come up this way. And we'll smooth those off a bit. Cool. Go back to that green that I was using earlier. Let's use a slightly different one. Here we go. Oh, that's nice. That's a good value shift. A little softer. Still plenty of interest there. A little bit more green tone, but it's about perfect for this particular scene. So on the warmer side. Now I'll come in with that indigo again, that kind of greenish indigo. Bring these up. How much detail do we want there? Now you notice, remember I talked about how the thing that was really important to me was all that yellow, and we haven't really painted all that yellow yet. A lot of this is set up. It's amazing to me how much these paintings will snap to finish. Just in the last strokes of the painting. It always amazes me that works that way. Let's do this here. That feels better. Some of this here. Okay, I need some cool in this corner. Let me get, which cool do I want? This is a very intense. Yeah, this is like an aqua, very intense, and I'm going to give it a few key strokes of this just to make sure that my temperature shifts in the right places. Let's put a bit more of it up here. Oh, I like that. Oh yeah. That keeps it from getting too indigo while giving it a bit of cool. So now I got warm and cool playing around. A little bit more of it in here. A bit of it down here. And I'm going to take a little lighter version of the same cool and do some of these sword ferns so we can see them happening. This can pretty much stay as it is unless I want to change the contrast a little. So far I like where that is. So we get some of these sword ferns again. Sword ferns are remarkably, they reflect the sky. There's so much reflection on those leaves on the ferns. It's truly astounding to me how much sky gets reflected off of sword ferns. They end up looking blue, very blue. And I have to ask myself, really? I mean, is that really that blue? Yeah, it is. What else? That's pretty good. Let's go with that. Yep, I've got about 9 minutes if I'm going to stick to half an hour. Let's see if I can do it. So now, yeah, baby, where we want to go. Let's go back
Don't
to
panic though. Do not panic.
You guys are great. Okay, I'm going to open up some sky here a little bit. I'm going to make sure that
Just in case I win that study, I want it done, Mark.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy to do it. I just love painting. This is going to be, if that's all it is, I'm good. Yeah, let's make it good. So here's the key. These are the key elements here now. I want to open up a few sky holes to make sure that we can see some depth here. And I'm just using a Jack Richardson white at this point, which I really like. Again, because it lays down. When you really want to put something down, that'll do it. Let's do this brilliant bit right here. Let's open that way up. And that will also give us a chance to really define this trunk, which is nice because that's a good compositional element there. Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's where I wanted to go. Okay, that opens up. Where else? We can open it up a little bit down here. We want to open it up right next to this trunk. And by doing so, we define the trunk much better. See how much that snaps just by doing that? Just by putting that little bit of contrast next to it. all of a sudden we define the shape more strongly. I love that. And it just takes us a few dots to accomplish that. It's not a whole lot. Where else do I want this? This is the big deal. Let's make sure that's nice and clean. Yeah, baby. Good. Good. I don't think we need to go a whole lot more there. We could do a little bit here just to define this trunk here again so we know where that is. How are we doing? Yep. Okay, now I get to go with the yellow. All right. And this is back to that super intense yellow that I started with. Very warm canary yellow. I love this kind of color, frankly. It's just, oh yeah. And I'm going to put that yellow ochre there, so I want more yellow in here. Oh gosh, that just, look at how that jumps. Oh my gosh. That just jumps. Yeah, and I'm going right over top, but you notice that I'm painting in places where I had erased a little bit, so I have more tooth there. This thing surprisingly will take a lot of layers, but if you have more tooth, sometimes it's helpful to just be able to get that little bit more oomph and straight to the white, as opposed to over another layer. Doesn't have to feel heavy that way. Let's get this some nice, let's really give this a nice bright spot right here. And I'm going to continue it. There's another little trick. If you don't continue on the other side, even though the reference doesn't show it, by continuing this yellow on the other side just a little bit, the eye doesn't see this as like a stained glass border. And I think that helps a lot. Many times if I feel like it's getting stiff, that's why. Put a little bit of it up in here, just a sheen of it. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, yep, more of it here. Now we're gonna do it right underneath that really bright bit that we just worked on. And we'll do that on the other side of this as well. So let that one trunk be sitting right in the light. Now this is actually still like a very warm yellow, so we haven't gotten to the brightest yellow. I haven't gotten to a cool yellow here at all. And it actually makes a lot of difference to use both warm and cool. As if you look at the reference photo, you can see that there are places where the temperature changes on the yellows, and it's worth doing. Because again, it's nature, and nature loves variety. There else we go. Okay, that. Yeah. Now we got the right light up there. Let's get some warmth up there. And we go back to that yellow ochre that I was working with before. Now we start fussing the texture just a little more. And play with that. Very nice. Let's do a little bit more of it in here. We can start. The other thing I like to do with these, notice how we got a little bit of branches, little leaves on in the reference photo. You can see leaves overlapping the trunk like this. All of a sudden we get 3 dimensions when we do that. I love it. Knocks everything into the background. Let's give that a little bit more tone there. Here we go. And I'm making decisions here the whole time about, I see what the reference does, but do I want that? Is it going to help me here? And there is a point at which I use the reference as really a suggestion only. Lina Celta, I heard her say she abandons her reference photo within 5 minutes of starting painting. And that is amazing to me. Part of the reason she does that though is because she's done a lot of pre-work in her head. She knows where she's going to take this painting. And because of that, then she's able to move on immediately to start creating something as opposed to simply depicting something. And I like that a lot. I'm not 5 minutes like she is by any stretch. But I do like, there's a point, and I love watching for this point, there's a point at which the painting starts telling me what it is, as opposed to me telling the painting what it is. And if I'm paying attention, that is the coolest thing, because it will grow into something that I had not envisioned necessarily, but that really works. And right now, this painting is starting to say, you know, you need to decide how much of this brightness we can actually show Are we going to put more detail in here? And the answer is probably not. At this point, probably not. So I'm going to put a little of this color down in here just so that it's represented across the painting, so it's not just sitting in one spot. I call that, I refer to that as color harmony, because to me it really does feel that way. It's like the whole thing is working together as opposed to elements with different colors in them. I believe there are ways to make just color elements stand on their own, and they can be very graphically pleasing. But you have to decide if that's because it's a stylistic thing, and it's gonna stylize your painting for sure. I'm putting a little bit more of this down in here just so there's plenty of it. Also warms this up a little bit. Cool. Where are we at? That's good. Let's get these tree trunks figured out. Oh man, I got 2 minutes. I'm not gonna finish it by any chance. We're gonna make a good painting instead of a short painting. Let's do that. Let's go with this is kind of a violet color. I think it's a little bit more red based than the blue that I see in the photo, but I like this for a base for these secondary illuminated bits of bark. And I'm just hitting certain sections of it so you can see this color happen. There's more suggestion than depiction for sure. And this, I'm going to go ahead and use it to define this more thoroughly. We'll walk that all the way up. There we go. And I can do that. Also, there's another vertical here. Do we want that? You know what? I'm going to move that vertical over just a little bit because I think it will anchor well. We don't have to take it all the way up. Just something good. There we go. That's pretty good. This then over here I can also do little hints of it up there so we can see that that trunk continues. Let's do a little bit more of this color over here because I think it's going to actually, oh yeah. Oh, that's what this needed. Very good. So if I put this violet up into the brown, and yet the yellow ochre and the yellow, look what happens. It's that split complement. It's so good. Let's put a little bit of it back in here. Just suggest some more trunks. That feels good. Let's put a little bit more of it down here. There's kind of a suggestion of it there. And we'll hint at it here and here. Oh, now this is really starting to come together. Yep. A little bit of hint of it here. Oh, I like it. Yep. Where else? In here. Yep. I'm always amazed at how violet works in a green landscape. You know, you get green and gold like this, and you put a little bit of violet in there, everything jumps. It's the coolest thing. Let's give this a little bit more weight. That's good. Where else do we want it? Let's do a bit of it here. Yep. So now we got the eye getting let into the background. This is like super easy atmosphere with this purple. Let's use a little bit of it in here. Oh, that's starting to come together. I like that a lot. Now, this is sort of hazy at this point. There's not a whole lot going on. Do we need more? I think so. I think we need to bring the eye into the front a little bit. Let's just firm up that trunk. Cool. Okay, that was this. Let's go with a little bit lighter, a little bit bluer, just for some of the real highlights here. Nice. Now that trunk stands out a little bit, and this trunk has a lot more going on because it actually has more moss on it. But I want to make sure that we can see the texture there a little bit, and I'm going to throw in some of that moss. Where's it good? This should be good. This should be good. This is a Sennelier. Very cool. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this is great. So this pulls it right back into the green of the landscape. Little suggestions of this here. Nice. And we can add that, actually we can put this in here too, which accentuates some of these ferns. And a little bit of ferns going on down here. I think this needs a little bit more dust in general. Let's see what we can do here. Yep, I like that. Cool. Now we can add the texture with just the strokes. And that feels a little bit more coherent now. I want to do a little bit of that purple in there too, because it helps balance out some of that green. Yep. And here's our path. I'm going to give, this is a base coat for the path. I'm going to put a little bit of highlight over top of it so we can see the gravel shining. A little bit more of that purple back in here as we get back into the distance. Okay. Good. Let's set that path with a blue. That's too bright a blue, too cool. Let's do a little bit warmer one. You know, I'm looking for the right blue for here, and I think I'm going to go with this Rembrandt because it's going to skid over the top differently. There we go. Sky blue, really bright. But I'm just going to use it for texture so that we can see the gravel. There we go. And I'm going to move that path over here a little bit. Let's just make that path meander a little. Give it some extra depth. I like that better. Yeah, that feels much better. Again, the magic of a Rembrandt. Now this is cool. This is a Mount Vision very cold yellow. And the cold yellow against this is going to jump. So I want to put a little trunk in here. This is kind of neat. Break that up a little bit. All right, here we go. Bang, bang, bang. Wow. You see why I put that cold yellow against the warm? It just pops. Where else do we want it? There we go. Yeah. And down here, this is really cool. I left this specifically for this cold yellow. A little bit of room here so we can bring that all the way down to the horizon line. Because there are gaps in the trees down there, and I think they're really fun.
Mark, I saw you clean it off or something ahead of time. I know mine
Yeah.
always get dirty. Did you use a rag? Oh, just a rag. Okay.
Paper towel, yeah.
Mhm.
I also have this incredibly important tool. This is a Puma. But the important thing is that it has this hole in the back for two reasons. One, that means its mate is now a solo, and it's perfectly usable as a rag. And the other thing is
Perfect.
that it's been washed enough times that it doesn't have much lint left.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So I like having those, and I will use them particularly on sanded paper. I'll use that. But for cleaning off, I tend not to clean my pastels just because I want to use every bit of dust I've got.
Mhm.
I'll only clean them if I really want to make sure that I've got a surface that I don't want to touch with anything else. And honestly, I like the complexity that you get with a little bit of extraneous dust
Uh-huh.
that shows up on your pastel. Sometimes, you know, I mean, you might end up fighting it. You might regret having done that. But more often than not, I found it's like, yeah, a little extra doesn't hurt anything. Okay, yeah, now you see that glow is just popped now. Yeah. Now I'm deciding how cool I want this to get, because so far it's looking pretty good at the cool thing. And I'm going to give a sheen of it down here, because you know all these little leaves that are down below? We're just going to put a sheen of it over here. Break up that little bit of trail that we put in. I really want that angle here, but I'm not getting it very well. It's coming out looking like I squeezed a lemon in that corner. There, you can put some of this in that, just in the spaces where where I erased out. I'm just putting, because they are semi-random, it helps me to keep from being too specific about my, or rhythmic, too rhythmic really. That's my bugaboo. I tend to get too, I tend to start painting in a pattern without realizing I'm doing it. And what I have noticed in musical terms, I have noticed that the landscape in particular is not a John Philip Sousa march. I think unless you planted those trees specifically for forestation issues, it doesn't go bum da dum da dun da dun dun da 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 dun. It's jazz. It's bebop. It's, you know, ba da da. Sometimes I'll do that just to loosen myself up. Otherwise, I tend to go bing, 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 and then, oops, here we have another pattern. Let's define that edge again. That's good. That's good. I like that. Give this just a little bit more off to the side here to lead the eye a bit. Bring the eye back in from here. Break up some of those heavier darks that didn't need to be there. There we go. What else does this need? It needs a little bit more in the foreground. Let's put some of these bright leaves down here next to that sort of get scattered on the floor here. That's looking good. Add a few of them up into here. And there's another color I want to introduce. And again, usually when you start introducing too many colors, you're getting close to the end. But this is a key I found. It really helped a lot. Is giving it that little bit more rust color can help a lot. And I'm going to use, this is really strong, but let's use it. This is a Mount Vision. And again, wipe it off here on the rag. You can see that. Look how strong that is. But we have a few elements here that if I just throw some of that in, all of a sudden it gets a richness that it didn't have a minute ago. And I'm being really careful not to go heavy on this. Just some. Just suggest that, hey, there's another color here. This is a good place for it. Oh yeah. And see how that just suddenly became very rich there? Whereas moments ago it was kind of yellow-black. Now it's got that red in here too. And there's a bit of a red right here that shows up. Yeah. Now we're getting depth. We're getting complexity. All of these things show up just because we had the gall to add one color that is a different temperature and value. I'm going to play with this here in a minute with a little bit more of a dark. But I want to kind of set up for that first. Where else? Let's put a few of them here. That'll bring those forward a bit. Let's do a little bit of it up in here. More suggestion than actual depiction again. Darken that just a hair. Let's darken this just a bit. And here. Yeah. And let's see. Put suggestions of it down here. This is getting a little too strong, but I can back it off in a second. This needs some more dark, so we need to actually go in with some real darks. If I feel like I did too much, I can usually just take a paper towel and just pounce it. There, knocks it back. Not too much at all. Nice. Also, if I feel like I need to, I can actually just, fill in the tooth just a bit more here. That works well here. I like that. Notice that when I rubbed it down, I did it with just my fingers. On different days, depending on how much I want to put down, I might just use a rag, use the sock or use a paper towel to really get it in, because that will really fill the tooth. Right now, I'm letting this be a little bit lighter today. But I do want to fill some of this tooth so we don't have extra texture where we don't want it. That's nice. This kind of blends it in the background a little bit. Where else? Probably here. There we go. All right, now I'm going to bring You notice I keep playing the lights and darks with each other. I don't just do one shot and that's it. I found that it really helps me to say, okay, that's enough of that. What else do we need? And now I feel like I need some more dark here. So I'm actually just layering in, and I'm just painting the shadows between the things right now. I love doing that. Paint everything but the thing. It's amazing how much the thing shows up. I'm going to come back in a bit and do some strong branches. But right now, I'm just making sure that my darks are set up properly. There we go. Let's put this little bit of dark back in here. Nice. Another thing I've been doing recently is trying not to paint quite so low key. I tend to paint very mysterious things. It's like, ooh, look at this. And sometimes it'd be nice to get a little bit of brightness. And that can be done with color, that can be done with value. But I find that if I don't gray everything out, I get some pretty nice results that way. So I've been playing with more color. Sometimes less texture actually makes a difference too. I'm going to put a few details down in here just because that way we know it's foreground. And that just by breaking things up, we can suggest that there are details down here, even though I'm not really painting details at all. Now this, you notice there are a lot more bright things in here. I may or may not do those depending on how likely I am to get the look I want. So I'm going to bring that dark that comes back in here. Remember I brought that pathway up in there and I thought, you know, didn't work as well as I wanted. Let's lead the eye with a contrast instead. And there is a trunk there. Let's do that because we could use the interest. And I'm going to be really careful with this because I don't want to completely overwhelm what I've got. So we just suggest it with broken shadow. I like that. That worked. That brings us into the painting as well. Let me get up in here a little bit. Paint between a few of these ferns. What we got down here? All right, we are now 40 minutes into our first half hour. There we go. Yeah. All right. What else does this really need? It needs a little bit of interest coming from here. It needs this bit coming across, but not as heavy or as clumped as it is over there. We're just going to suggest some branches coming in, a little bit of foliage there with it. We need this thing on top to lead the eye as well. Let's get this, we'll give this some contrast here. I'm checking now. Every time I turn around, I'm checking to make sure that I'm not adding anything it doesn't need. Because right now the painting is pretty much making decisions. Do we need that crisscross thing here? No. Do we need these trunks here? Probably not. We can just lead the eye that way. Let's just put the horizon in so we know where it is. Like that. And give this just a little bit of detail. There's one more trick I've got up my sleeve with a dark that works super well to really make a forest out of it. Let's just make sure that's clear. Yeah, I'm liking that. That's getting there. Let's give this some texture so it's not just a... There we go. Now we got gravel. I like that better. Yeah, that feels good. A little bit of strong lines here to bring our eye forward. Same thing down here. Let's just do a little bit of that. Looks like there's a branch happening here. Let's make it happen. There's several branches up in this area. Do we want anything coming down from here? Yeah. Let's actually put a trunk in here because I think we need a good strong vertical at this edge. Oh, that helps. I like that. What else? Some of these angled things. Don't want to crisscross too much. Let's bring this down. I like that curving bit. Maybe stronger here. Let's make sure that this horizon is obvious. Feels good. Yep. What else? Okay, I'm going to back up and take a look at this from a distance. Oh, I like the composition. That worked. Yep. Let's define this edge here a little bit so we know where that trunk ends. And I'm going to go back to that really strong canary yellow and just warm this up. That's nice. And break this up in here now. What else do you want? Let's put some of this down in here. Scatter a few leaves. Give this some more 3 dimensions here. One of the things I love about the forest, and I've studied this for years trying to figure out how it worked, because I kept trying to do that wonderful delicacy that you can get in a wood, and I just fussed with it and fussed with it and fussed with it, and I realized I was trying to draw the twigs that are holding the leaves. You don't see that. Your eye doesn't see it. Your eye assumes that. And because it assumes that, it actually looks better if you just float the leaves over top of everything. And then the eye goes, oh, okay. And it's much more enjoyable, actually, I think, to see these floating leaves than to have every little twig show up. So I will float leaves over stuff just to break up strong lines, to lead the eye. And it's just, and they're just delightful. I'm going to put a little bit more down in here. And I'm going to actually put a few of those really dry white ones here, even though we don't have any of that white elsewhere. Let's break that up down here a little bit. There we go, that feels better. That feels good. A little few more in here. Now there's a couple of colors that I could use. I could use a peach color, because there's some of that. Here's one. Here's a good example. That's nice, and it reads almost white. But it gives you that feeling of leaves that have been completely drained of chlorophyll and are sort of bleached now. That's kind of nice. We just do a few bits in various places. Sometimes only a dot is needed. The eye will read that dot, even from a distance. Just to, oh man, that helped a lot. Wow. Remarkable what that did. Cool. What else? Okay, I know what else I want. I want that really cold teal blue. We're going back to the, not teal, but indigo. I'm going back to indigo, and I'm going to put this indigo in key places. Just to, oh yeah. Yeah. Now that temperature shift keeps everything from feeling too strongly green. That's cool. Put it next to, I'm putting it also next to that violet that I put in earlier, and it blues it up very nicely. Keeps it from being cloying. I don't know. It might be the right term for that. Because it can look a little cutesy if you use too much of it. But here, just putting this cold in here gives it some personality that it didn't have a minute ago. Yeah. Yeah, I want to take that all the way up here because that contrast is a nice way to break that horizon. Yeah, I think that's that. Where else? Just suggestions of it here. A little bit along the edge here. Nice. Yep. Okay, one more thing I want to do with this, and I like it. This is the simplest trick in the book, really. If I can find my... I'm looking for my charcoal pencil. And I seem to have misplaced that one. I have another. Here we go. All of the woods are going to have these random twigs of stuff that stick out, and a lot of them are full-on trees that are so skinny you wouldn't believe they'd even work. But by putting these in here, and you can do it with charcoal because it's probably the easiest. Pastel pencil sometimes isn't soft enough. This is a 6B, just a typical general charcoal pencil, and I'm using it to firm up edges, suggest a little bit more texture in the trunk, so we can read that bark really nicely. Another thing I want to point out, you see how I'm holding the pencil? I don't know if people are used to doing with a paint brush are probably better at this, but when I started working with a pencil, I was here, and I had so much trouble because it was so stiff, and I found that I'm actually more expressive from a distance, and this is what I like to do at this point. Just put in those thin bits of stuff that always exist in these areas. They could be branches. That's actually really nice. This breaks this up nicely. They could be actual trunks of trees, because some of these are, and they go. You just put in semi-random loose bits of this, and all of a sudden, the eye goes, oh yeah, okay, those things. And here I can do a little bit more trunk here, just kind of open that up, or give this a little bit more definition. What else? You know, it was actually watching Albert Handel that showed me just how cool it was to use charcoal and pastel together. I did not realize, I mean, I'd heard about it, and I thought, I don't know. I just thought it was going to get muddy. Nope. It's really good. And we're at a full hour almost. My quick draw utterly failed, but the painting did not, so that's cool.
Mark, if I were able to do an entire piece in 1 hour, I would consider myself very successful. That would be an amazing quick draw for me.
It is not easy. Yeah, I agree. I was flying here and I did okay. But I think this makes it a decent painting. Let me just step back and see. I feel like this is a little bit too loose here, so it either needs some definition on the side. We can do that. Let's just define the outside edge of that. Yeah.
You know, you can always just touch it up a little before you send it to me. I mean, to the winner.
Yeah. Pam knows who's winning this thing already. That's great. That's great. Okay, a little bit more on that. I want to do one more bit of that green bit to finish these up. And this is going to give it some nice rough texture over the front, which is, I think this is going to leave the eye really well. There we go. Yep. And this is one of those beautiful Terry Ludwigs. Not Terry Ludwig. I'm sorry. This is Jack Richardson, and both of those brands have been. I'm sold. They are so good. They have really been working for me. Let's get this blocked. There we go. Now that feels real. That feels much better. A little bit more, lead this down in. Yeah. And pretty happy with this. Yep. That's good. Yep. And a little bit more up in here just to kind of tie this in. Tie this in. Connect these a little. There we go. A little bit more mysterious back in here with some dark. I like that. It doesn't feel quite so blocked out. There, that's cool. So we get the motions coming this way, the motions coming this way, the path is leading this way, but also these ferns are leading the eye back. Everything is kind of keeps the thing moving. I think that worked pretty well. That's good. So I want to do something that is like my absolute favorite thing to do when I'm done with the painting. And I know you guys that do this too when you tape up. This is such a beautiful experience because you get to see, I'll sign this afterwards, but you get to see the finished bit without all the mess. So all the work then that just feels so good.
Now,
Nice.
this paper, do you have to mount it onto a board before you frame it, or?
You know what? You can frame this paper. They framed it without a board. I mean, your basic backing board that you would have on your frame is plenty.
Oh,
Yeah, it's good. This paper is it really holds up. It takes a lot more stress than you would think. But there you go. Nice and clean white edges. And you get your painting. Woo!
really lovely.
So yeah, that was an hour's worth of a half hour.
Yay!
Hey. Well, thank you so much. This is fun. Thanks for coming, and those of you who are watching on the video, thanks for watching the video.
Yeah,
Glad we
really
can
nice.
do that.
Yeah, very cool.
Very
All right.
cool.
Okay, your last task, Mark.
Yes.
Yep, scrap paper.
I have scrap paper.
Yeah,
Yes, I
you
do.
got to write. You need to write a few names on some slips there and put them in a little bowl.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what names am I writing down?
You're writing Sabrina.
Sabrina?
Uh-huh.
Just write that 5 or 6 times.
Okay. That's easy. Okay.
And
What else?
Francesca
Okay.
and Bonnie,
Okay.
Jan
Jan.
and Jennifer
Okay.
and Norma
Okay.
and S.A.
S.A.
Just S.A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, and I know we had a couple other people, but they dropped off early.
Oh, yeah, it went long.
Yeah, a couple people. And Pam.
And Pam. Okay. So I've got Sabrina, Francesca, Bonnie, Jan, Jennifer, Norma, S.A., and Pam.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna do this now so that I can actually pick randomly from this.
yeah, juggle them around and
Yep,
pull
yep.
out a name.
Hang on a second, I need to separate them because they're all written on one piece of paper.
Oh yeah, tear them apart.
Yes. Now individual people.
Yeah, it's really lovely. It's really lovely how you managed to get that glow coming through there.
That was fun, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a whole slew of these in my hands they're all covered with pastel. So they will be well pasteled. They're being shaken around. I'm not looking and I'm flipping them. I'm doing all manner of things and I am throwing them up in the air.
Ha!
And Sabrina,
Ah!
right in front of me. I couldn't think of a better random way to do it.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Sabrina.
I got up for a minute because I had to help my husband with a patient.
Uh-huh.
And I came back and it was like,
You were the winner.
oh my God. It's
Congratulations.
beautiful. I'm
Christina.
thrilled.
Nice.
Yay.
Great, great demo. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you,
so glad you
Pam, for
enjoyed that.
organizing it.
Yeah.
There you go. Here's the painting all by itself.
Nice.
And I will sign that and pack it up. So Sabrina, I need your shipping information so we can go there.
Do you,
Send it to
can I email it to you?
Yes,
or
you can. Yeah.
Okay, I will
Yeah.
email it to you.
Okay, and you have my email address?
I think I do.
Yeah. If nothing else, you can find me on MarkIvanCole.com. Mark@MarkIvanCole.com will get to me. That's the easiest one.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
do it.
send me the
We'll
shipping
keep track of it.
information. We'll get this thing packed up and sent out. I will sign it first.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this was fun. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you. It's
Thanks
a
Super
great
cool.
demo.
We'll
Day
get
one of the fall festival.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of it, Mark. Really appreciate
Oh,
it.
super happy to do it.
Yeah, we'll get the video posted and people will be wishing they had been signed on.
Oh yeah. One more thing. Blatant
Oh.
self-promotion before I go.
Oh,
I
yeah,
have a
please.
workshop this weekend. Day after tomorrow, not day after tomorrow, Saturday, from 8 to 2 Pacific time. So whatever your time zone is, do the calculation. 8 to 2, we're going to be doing backlit woods just like this.
Great.
So yeah, and it's going to be super fun. It's like one of my favorite subjects. That's why I picked it for this, because I just love watching that light come through. So yeah, if you want to pay, it's $99 for the day. If you do it via Zelle, it's $105 with the PayPal fees if you want to do PayPal. But
Nice.
the information's on MarkIvanCole.com. Just go to workshops and classes, backlit woods. Check it out.
Great
Thank
bargain.
you much.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye,
Great
everybody.
demo.
Bye bye all.